Welcome back to Align by Design, the podcast dedicated to women who know deep down they're meant for more. Yet something still feels off. This is your space. If you ever find yourself holding back, hiding parts of who you truly are, or feeling limited by invisible barriers you can't quite name, each week we explore what it takes to move beyond those blocks, trust your inner voice, and finally step fully into your truth. I'm Flavie, and today we're diving into a powerful conversation that's designed to gently shake you awake, inviting you to break free from what's been keeping you small and guiding you home to who you really are. And I have an incredibly special guest joining me, a woman whose journey is the embodiment of resilience, courage, and unwavering authenticity. Brandi Munguia is a transformational coach, keynote speaker, and executive director of the Edge Mastermind, an exclusive collective for high performing entrepreneurs scaling beyond six, seven, and eight figures. Brandi has shared stages with industry legends like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Trent Shelton, Lisa Nichols, and Brandon Bouchard. Her powerful story includes overcoming profound challenges, personal trauma, health battles, and entrepreneurial struggles, and all while maintaining her heart centered approach. But today, Brandy is not just here to talk about business strategy or success metrics. She's here to share her deeply personal journey, the reality of launching and scaling her dream business in the midst of life storms, the tenacity required to persist when everything seemed impossible, and the powerful lesson she learned about stepping into courage and authenticity. We will dive into what it means to be a mompreneur attending transformative high level events, how she balanced motherhood and high performance entrepreneurship, and the life changing realizations that came from her commitment to her vision. If you ever felt trapped in the perfect student syndrome, overachieving yet feeling disconnected, or if you're struggle with visibility, self-doubt, and living your truth boldly, this episode is exactly what your soul needs. Get ready to be inspired, activated, and reminded that your dreams are possible and that the courage to live authentically is the greatest legacy you can create. Let's dive in. Let's go. Welcome, Brandy. I am so glad, excited, thrilled to have you with us today. So, more than welcome to Align by Design podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege to get to serve your audience like this. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's really my true pleasure because, when I look back to your journey, it's like for me, you are such an example of what is possible. And I really love that quote, which is from impossible to I'm possible. You just put one space, one breath, one heart, and suddenly everything changed. And I know that you faced tremendous adversity moment when possibly giving up would have been understandable, but you keep going, you persisted. And can you share maybe few moments, few specific moments when you almost walk away, but finally, as Dean said, you persist, and then you choose to keep going that way? Because I really want, the audience to say, okay, that is not what you just see in the book or in the movie. You are the proof that when you know you have that calling, you feel that things that we can't always name, and you go for it, it can literally happen.
Absolutely. I think this is a twofold question. And first, I want to start with the ability to have grit and tenacity. And everyone listening here will be able to resonate with this. Pain is temporary. Discomfort is temporary. And so, in those moments where we are questioning, Can I do this? Should I do this? Is it worth it? We must lean into the ability to persist even when it's painful, because on the other side of that persistence is the perseverance. So, the times where I've had massive pivots in my career or in my life, and those nights, and everyone can has felt this, and I'm sorry that you felt this, but those nights where you are laying there awake and questioning, am I going to get through this? Is this going to get better? How can I see my life ahead of me? And it's the ability to grit through that and to move through it and to say, as long as I don't give up, I will persist and I will persevere. The only way we fail is if we give up. So
Yes.
those turning points where my business had to pivot back in 2020, like everyone else, I had to massively pivot when the gyms were closed and my race season was canceled and my entire business was built on the foundation of health and wellness. And where I noticed my pivot needed to be was when I needed to address trauma recovery. What that year did is activate so many different feelings from the people who were now processing what next, what next. And it made me realize how much I knew about trauma recovery, but from a personal experience. But then I also had to realize business needs to pivot no matter what. And anyone that's listening that has a business, one of the biggest things that we activate is understanding that we thrive in chaos. And we've often learned that from our trauma patterns of being the calm in the storm, as we say. And so when your business has seasons where chaos gets activated, success is chaotic. And it's our ability to face that chaos and reframe that chaos and saying, I thrive in chaos. I can handle this. I can move through this. And there were so many times that I was like, gosh, maybe I should give up. And where I had to lean into my tenacity was when your purpose is bigger than the pain, the temporary pain, you will find every single way to come out on the other side. And so I pivot. I pivot my entire business to trauma recovery. I took everything that I knew that worked for me in the wellness space and became a thought leader in the trauma recovery space. And I used all the different tactics from marketing and all these things. And I just stopped holding myself hostage in the busy tasks and did the uncomfortable. And the uncomfortable was following up with potential clients when I had to pivot platforms. I pivot platforms from Instagram over to Facebook, and I had to lean into the pivot because what was happening was I went from being profitable to not being profitable about what felt overnight. And not just that, I was losing followers on my Instagram daily because all of the content was shifting from me being a Spartan racer and getting ready for races and what that meant to transform mindset and physically, and had to shift my entire conversation into what it meant to have bulletproof mindset. And as time continued, that lost momentum too, because I was tired of talking about trauma recovery. I was tired of the rumination or the pain, and I felt like I just didn't have the bandwidth to hold space for those conversations anymore. And some of you in business, you're going to have seasons of fatigue. You're going to have seasons where you feel that fatigue. And so I pivot again into business strategy because now I knew how to build the business and how to activate life coaches in the online space who were specializing in trauma recovery or in wellness. And now this was, 2, 3 years later after I pivoted my entire brand. And I was able to teach business strategy. And that's where my high ticket came from. But even in that, I had to go back to my principles of I'm changing again. I'm pivoting again. I have to lean into the uncomfortable as I acquire new clients. And during that time is when I got really great opportunities to work with legends in the industry. And for me, at the time, the imposter syndrome creeps up, right? It's like, who am I? I'm not anyone special. But I didn't come into that industry side with legends thinking, how can I make a name for myself? I came into that with how can I serve as many people as I can? How can I help as many people as I can to help them understand and identify? I know that business is hard. I know that change is hard. How can I be a voice of sovereignty in that era of people developing online businesses? So that's how I got into that industry. Long story long, but it's been all of that while navigating my home life, while navigating my motherhood, while navigating extreme change in releasing old patterns, old behaviors, healing, letting go of relationships, setting really hard boundaries. Because when you commit to a lifestyle that is not like everyone else, you will be met with so much resistance from friends, from family, from peers, and to commit to a lifestyle that's not like everyone else, and to commit to this this space that's hard to explain to others.
Yeah,
Your
so
business
true.
friends get it, your entrepreneurial friends, they get it, but
But
the
the
rest of the
ones who
world
don't.
doesn't. Yeah.
No, and I love, in a sense, how you give permission, through what you shared to say it's okay to pivot. It's okay
Yes.
to change. It's okay to evolve because you are evolving. And what I
Yeah.
love in what you shared, it's you respected yourself to say, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want anymore to deal with trauma recovery and all those kind of things. And I
Yes.
feel that call, to pivot. And I didn't
Yeah.
wait for someone to give me the permission to do it. I took the permission to do it
Yes.
myself because so many times I see many women, I'm sorry, who are waiting for permission. Yes,
Correct.
you can do this.
Yeah.
Yes, you can pivot. Yes, you can change your niche, your avatar, your product, your offer, whatever it is. And we lost what you call our sovereignty to say, no,
Sovereignty.
we are the queen of our kingdom. We are
Yeah.
the one who decide. We are the one. This is our business. So
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
one else should be able to tell you what you can or cannot do. But so
Right.
many times we forget about it. And as you
Yeah.
shared, when you pivot, you return to this imposter syndrome. Say, but I just changed. Am I still relevant? Am I still good enough? Am I? And you just ask so many questions about who you are. And it's true. You shared
Yeah.
that we have a different lifestyle. Staying at
Yeah.
home, working from home, having our kids around, it's not the standard 9 to 5 life,
It's
like where
not.
you can
Yeah.
travel and do all those kind of things. And sometimes it's also to say, it's okay for me to be different. And I don't say claiming you're different, but accepting from
Yeah.
your perspective that it's okay. And honestly, through Mastermind and everything, that's how I met you, you will find the spaces where you will meet like-minded people
Absolutely.
and life will give it to you.
Absolutely. And attracting the people to you through your authenticity.
Exactly.
And when we pivot, it's not about who we are, it's about who we're becoming
Yeah.
in the evolution. And when we feel fear, it's often because we've established identity in what we've, cultivated or created. And it's okay to shift identity in who you're becoming. And one of the biggest things I'll talk about is, you know, the personal evolution is so powerful when we like physically look different, physically feel different. And it's okay to shift identity, to come up into your higher self. And it's not to call us out, it's calling us up.
Yeah.
And when we look into that commitment to the higher self, there's resistance when we're evolving because we must release who we've had to be in order to step into who we're becoming, right?
So true. Yes.
And that goes for all different areas of our life. And sometimes the biggest resistance becomes fear of losing people or losing identity um, when we're stepping into that higher version of ourselves. But in reality, what's on the other side of that shift is more of who we are, more of our authenticity, more attraction to the people who want to be a part of our life, want to be a part of who we're becoming. That's the massive shift that a lot of people need to awaken to.
Yeah.
It's more than just business and time freedom and feeling stability. It's connectivity to who you are authentically, you, all of you.
Yeah. I love it. And it's sometimes scary, to say, who am I really willing to become? And I think that our first barriers, it's just ourselves. Like, you know, you watch a Facebook Live from Dean and Tony, it was 6 years ago, and you decided, to buy the first mastermind course. And it's that moment you had a dream and maybe a vision, that spark with you. And did you tell yourself, okay, I need to change my identity. This is who I need to become because this is such a
Absolutely.
different space from where you were. I
Yeah.
saw sometimes some of your picture and it was like, wow,
Who
such
is
a
she?
different,
I don't
such
know her. Like she
yeah,
doesn't go
I
here
don't recognize
anymore.
her. Because
No, yeah, this is this is one of those things where when I made that decision, I absolutely committed to who I was becoming. And the biggest commitment is taking yourself seriously.
yes.
If you take yourself seriously, it invites others to take themselves seriously as well. And committing to the lifestyle and the patterns and the healing
Yeah.
that's necessary to take yourself seriously and to stop suffering in a identity that doesn't align with you. There was a lot of I love that you brought this up, Flavie, because I was so trapped in cycles of seeking validation.
Mm,
And I would outwardly try to gain validation. And let me unpack that. What I meant by that is I used to have bright red hair. I used to I tried to have, different styles and all these different things to try to get acceptance of like, if you could see me, if only you could see me and hear me. And then I had to realize the power of calm confidence. I had to realize the power of quiet confidence, that I could be heard if I allowed myself to be a thought leader. And that's where I committed to my elegant era. And I said, I need to take myself more seriously. I need to allow myself to be refined and not so loud. I don't need to be loud. I can be quiet and refined. And my voice, my presence, my impact is loud enough.
mm. I love this because it's true. So many times we see so many people trying to be loud to get
Mhm.
attention, but most of the time they just face rejection because this is not
Truly.
what people want. So
Yeah.
I love how you succeed in a sense to have first the awareness that
Yeah.
this may not serve me to
Yeah.
achieve the version of who I want to become. And
Absolutely.
if I'm looking back to those 6 years ago, did you imagine when, because I know that Dean gonna have his launch. So next weekend, the time this episode gonna be released, it's gonna be the day of
Oh,
Thrive 2025. So it's like literally like 6 years ago. And so you were sitting where many people gonna sit in a week. And did you imagine what what was possible for your future?
oh my goodness. I think a lot of us, when we look at watching these events and then that spark happens that says, like, one day, I hope to share the stage with those individuals. And that moment for me was well before I came into Dean and Tony's world as an entrepreneur.
Mm,
When I lost I've lost both my parents. And when I lost my father in 2003, we had this like anti-bullying rally at school. And I was heavily bullied in middle school. Like here I was, this 13-year-old little girl. My dad had just passed away that summer before. I just could not take the bullying anymore. And it was just serendipity that we had this rally at school, right? And this guy said, the guy that was doing the motivational speech was like, if anyone wants to come up and stand up to your bully, now's your chance, essentially. So my little 13-year-old self, in my oversized clothes and shaking in front of stage and saying to my bullies, you don't know me, and I hope you know the impact. If you think you're being funny, it's not funny. And I had so many kids come up and apologize to me that day. And it was this moment where I realized that your voice has an impact. And I had said to myself, like, one day I hope to be a motivational speaker. One day I hope I can help people and be a voice. And then shortly after is when I was introduced to Tony Robbins because one of my mom's friends had like given me his CDs and was like, I know you're going through such a hard time right now. And, this guy, Tony Robbins, he's so impactful. And so, I think he's going to help you. And I listened to those CDs and I was like, oh my gosh, life happens for you. That was my introduction to Tony. And after that, I was like, gosh, like this is the realm I need to be in. And here I am, a 13-year-old kid. And so I'd always sought mentorship by thought leaders like Tony Robbins because then I lost my mother when I was 19. So by the time I was 19, I'd lost both my parents. And so I kept seeking mentorship from entrepreneurs. I was like, I have to lean into people who can get my mindset right and this and that. And that's where I started scratching the surface of entrepreneurship. And when I came into Dean and Tony's world as their partnership of the knowledge business blueprint back in 6 years ago, I cut a check that check for a couple grand to buy the knowledge business blueprint because I was like, now's my time. I had come from the tech industry. I was like, I'm going to take all this business acumen. I had grown momentum on Instagram, sharing my story, right? Sharing my story was my first introduction to I know I can be an entrepreneur. I don't know how, and this is what I'm gonna do. And I knew what it was like to have a business launch and flop and be like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I had this tech startup. I called it Prep for Tech, and I took like one local client and was like, yeah, I just don't have time for this, and I just did not give it attention. So I realized I was like, when I saw Dean and Tony go live for that first KBB call to action. I said, oh man, this is my time. This is it. I was like, this is what I needed. And it was the community, the mastermind community that gave me access to see things that there really was support outside of just my friends and family. And they all thought I was crazy because I cut a check for a couple grand and they're like, yeah, okay, you're going to start a business. Like, good for you. And what are you? You're crazy. Like, you're a mom. You don't have time for this. You're probably not going to make any money. All those negative feedback pieces. But I leaned into the mastermind community that was like, no, you've got this. Like, you can do this and you're not crazy. And oh my gosh, I love your logos. And this is like anything I was doing in business, I took to the community and was like, give me feedback, celebrate this win. And that community rallied around me. And that is where, when I saw that first live, and I said, gosh, one day I hope to serve as many people as Dean and Tony. And if I ever get the chance to share that stage one day, I hope that's possible. And as the mastermind community rallied around me and I started seeing success, I had so much reciprocity that I was like, gosh, how can I give back to this community? How can I show them how much I care that they got me on the other side? And I will always be a voice to help them get on the other side. And so I raised my hand when they had the call for volunteers. They're like, can you? We're looking for volunteers for the World Summit. And this was when the whole world was pivoting to virtual. I had paid the money for the in-person ticket for Vegas when they had the first World Summit, and I paid the VIP so I could go to the networking thing, and then everything was canceled, and I was like, oh man, this sucks. I was like, but I'd love to volunteer. Like, that would be amazing. So I volunteered for the Virtual World Summit. And that was my first exposure to the like behind the scenes. And I'm lighting up the comments and I'm just doing my best to support as many people as I can. And it was electric to be a part of the mod team at that time. And so any chance I got to volunteer is how I got into kind of the mastermind space. And as time continued, I was making impact. I was serving those students, and they had a call for coaching. And they said, we'd love to interview you. We'd love to have you be one of our coaches. We keep hearing about you in our surveys. Like, we'd love for you to audition. So I did my auditions and I went through like multiple auditions as a coach and got invited to become a part of the coaching team. And that was a huge thing for me where I was like, oh my gosh, I built my whole business under Mastermind's way. And now I get to be a coach on their team while I'm doing all this in business. Like, what is this life? And time continued. And I just always sought to serve and always be at the top of the industry knowledge of like I am a student for life. I will never stop learning the newest, latest, and greatest things because I love it. It lights me up. The knowledge industry and self-education is so powerful. It's life-changing. And so as time continued, I was a contractor of Mastermind for 2 years, and I've been a full-time part of the team for the last 3 years. So I've been involved with Mastermind for the last 5 years.
Wow.
And 2 years ago was when I got the invitation to step on that stage for the first time and teach High Ticket Academy. That's where we met.
Yeah.
And the High Ticket Academy was my first exposure to a studio stage like that, where I had done stage in the sense of virtual stages, teaching virtually. I've done summits and podcasts and all these fun things, but to have standing on that stage that Dean and Tony and other legends have been on and sharing that, and Dean's introducing me as a transition. I mean, it was just electric. And it was that confirmation of like, I cannot believe that I am standing here today. And what was even more powerful over time was being invited to be in the World Summit as a speaker on that team and sharing the stage with Dean and Tony and other legends in the industry, that full circle moment of, I cannot believe I'm standing here today. And I've had the honor and the privilege to be featured in World Summit 2 times. And last year, I got to meet Tony Robbins for the first time. And that 13-year-old little girl who stood up in front of her bullies became the vision. And it wasn't because I had wished for it or I had hoped for it. I had committed to who I was becoming in order to receive that vision that was on my heart. And I get emotional because for those of you listening, I know when you commit to a dream, you must also commit to who you're becoming and the compound effect of who you evolve into. It compounds over time. That 13-year-old self took 20 years to be the 33-year-old self who shared the stage for World Summit. 20 years of self-development, 20 years of not giving up, 20 years of evolving as this young woman into who I became as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a 33-year-old woman. Now I'll be 35 in June. And the last 2 years of who I've become even. I get the honor and privilege to work on this team, and now I'm an executive director for Mastermind, and it's so powerful to be a leader in this space. And I do not take for granted the opportunity that I've received, and what an honor it was to be asked to lead in this way. And I have so much respect and so much reciprocity for this industry and for the other leaders who believed in me along the way and opened doors for me to step through. And there were so many times that the door would open and I was scared to step through.
Yeah.
That I was like can I do this? Should I do this? Who am I? I don't, someone else deserves this. Like, I'm not good enough. I remember the morning of World Summit and I froze as I went to grab my hotel door, where I froze at the door and I'm like, should I walk through this door? What if I fall when I go to get on stage? What if I mess this up? What if I get fired because I ruin everything? Like it was just all those thoughts. And this small voice of, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, that small voice of this is who you're meant to be,
Yeah,
and to commit to that and to follow through in that, even when you're shaking in your bones, because you are so in alignment that you cannot mistake fear for connectivity. Oftentimes, we're like, I'm scared, but really, you're aligned.
yeah,
Really, you're excited. Really, you feel connected to your higher self. Don't mistake that for fear, and to accept it for what it is, and the excitement of, I can't believe this is happening. But it's not about, oh, it wasn't random that it was happening. It was due to my ability to show up to what was happening. And I didn't do those things thinking, oh, if I do this, then I might be able to do this. If I do this, then I'll be able to get on stage. There was no agenda for me. All I wanted was to serve as many people as I can and to help as many people as I can and impact as many lives as I can, to help people get out of their own way, to know that there's a community that wants to see you win, that there are people who want to see you win, that you can and you will change when you commit to that change, and that you can stop suffering and live your absolute highest self, best life. And even in the highest self and the peaks, there will still be challenge and resistance, but it's the ability to be resilient quickly
yeah.
that gets you to where you're meant to be. So powerful. And I know that I get on this I don't mean to get all passionate here, Flavia, and I appreciate you holding the space, because then I get all passionate. So for your listeners, thank you for your patience as I got on my passion flow there for a moment.
But I love it because, this is something so important because I'm just going to come back to that 13 years old girl because how many times we don't dare to speak? How many
Yeah,
times we dim our light? How many times it's like, oh, I don't know if I can. And
yeah,
I know that visibility is such sometimes a pain point for women entrepreneurs because
yeah,
they fear so much rejection. And
yeah,
I know that when I met you in the High Ticket Academy, we had a discussion about also how be you when you are emotional, be
yeah,
you by being authentic, and be you
100%.
no matter what people may think, no matter if they judge you, if they reject you. So for all the women today who are potentially listening to us, what would
Yeah,
you like to tell them to say, stop being afraid of who you are and
yeah,
what you have to share? Because I truly
yeah,
believe that your voice matters, your
yes,
story matters, and it just
absolutely.
asks you a small act of courage to
Yeah,
just say, okay, I'm stepping up. And no matter what, I'm going to share my story because it can resonate with so many people. And I'm sure that has been also a connector for you to share your story and to be who you are because I would have connected with you that much if you were not you, if you were not
yeah,
authentic. So
yeah,
for me, authenticity and daring to share who you are and what you
yeah.
have to share and bring to the world is so important. So
Okay.
maybe through a part of your story, what you've been through, and as you shared, if you
Yeah.
had one word to say to those women who are here at the edge with
Yes.
one word, at the edge, say, I know I am meant for more. I know that I
Absolutely.
want to share my story, but
Yeah.
what
It's
do
this
you?
ability to two things, expiring loyalty to rejection, expiring loyalty to people and circumstances that do not have positive intent for you. You must have positive intent for you. Secondly, confidence is courage.
Yes.
Confidence is not our vanity. It's not about how we feel about ourselves. Confidence is the commitment to your courage. And all the times that you have taken courageous action, you deserve and should feel confident about who you are and who you're becoming. And as we commit to that courage more and more, the self acceptance is not selfish. Self love is not selfish. That you are absolutely strong enough, you are capable, and you are worthy of creating the life that is yours.
Mm.
150%.
But it starts with one small act of courage.
It does. Courage evolves, courage compounds. And you've been courageous in so many other areas of your life
Yeah.
that it is courageous to commit to your authenticity
Mm.
and that you are not too much. Hold that space. Take that space, sis. Make that space for others
Yeah. Show
because
the
it
way.
takes courage. It
Yeah.
takes courage to pave the way for authenticity. When you are authentically you, you give other people the permission to be authentically themselves as well. And authenticity, it should not scare you. Why I'm tying back the expiring loyalty to rejection is that we kept chasing people who were committed to misunderstanding us, and we should not have to convince people that we are good enough.
Yeah.
When you are authentically you, you will attract people who not only accept you and love you unconditionally, but you are more than good enough to hold space in their life and for you to hold space for them. And authenticity only illuminates the right people, and it will help repel people who are not meant to be in your life. And that's okay if it is people that you want in your life, but they cannot see you for who you really are because they invent you to be someone you're not.
Yeah.
And you do not have to try to convince them otherwise or appease any type of false narrative. Allow yourself to step into who you are and who you're becoming. And those who accept your authenticity will come along the journey, and those who don't will fall away. And that's part of the higher self.
Yes. So true. So true.
Yeah.
Some people come to your life for a season, for
Yes.
a reason,
Yes.
and sometimes their mind is okay. Now the road I'm just crossing and I'm going to continue my way. Thank you for everything you brought me, but now I'm changing, I'm evolving, and we should not
Yeah.
be afraid of changing and evolving. And I love
100%
how you often
necessary.
speak about choosing kindness and
Yes.
positivity, even when
100%.
tested by life and people, and especially
Oh,
sometimes with people, because
absolutely.
we saw you grow, you change so much, and I would love to know how have you cultivated, your resilience without
Oof.
compromising your authentic and let
Yeah.
me tell it, kind-hearted nature because
Yes.
you are kind nature by nature, by design,
That's my authentic self. And I committed to being love. I committed to not being bitter and not letting my life hinder me from being kindness in other people's darkness. Because here's the thing is that when I look at that commitment to love, I often, and especially in the industry, I've been challenged. And I
Mm.
said, do not mistake my kindness for naivety
Yes.
because I am not naive, but I can be kind. I am not naive and I choose to be kind and loving. And when I've been challenged by other people and they question, how can you be this kind? And I say, it's a choice. And what would it look like if I continue to choose to be this person, regardless of who tries to shake me? Because what it does by committing to who I am in my authenticity and in my love, I get to show people that kindness and love does exist and that You cannot break me. I have been bent many times in life or burned many times in life, challenged, but I refuse to become bitterness.
Mm,
And that is where I've been told many times, you're too nice, you're you're too emotional. That's probably the biggest one I hear is you're too emotional. I said, it makes people uncomfortable that I can express my emotion authentically. It makes people uncomfortable because they want to express emotion. And when I do that, it allows safety for them to express emotion. By me being authentically loving the way that I am, it allows safety for others to feel loved. That's all I want for them. They've experienced enough pain, enough rejection. They've experienced enough loneliness that I refuse to ever be someone who makes someone feel rejected. So my heart will always be open. My arms will always be open because love will always, always, always take up more space.
mm,
And it is the one thing that when we talk about being mothers, and our children illuminate unconditional love. When people ask me, what drives you, what makes you this way, and it's truly because yes, of course I want to help as many people as I can and be that loving presence, but to my core and my essence is that I want to illuminate my daughter's life so that she has a life she doesn't have to recover from,
mm.
that she has and knows that unconditional love exists in her home and that she deserves to unconditionally love herself in this life.
Yeah.
And the only way we can lead by example in our home first. In our home first. I had always been unconditionally loving while still rejecting myself.
Mm,
And I had to learn that self-love wasn't selfish,
mm,
that
mm,
self-love, unconditional self-love was nurturing to lead by example so that my daughter could love herself unconditionally and be the ripple effect to love others.
yeah,
Because
right.
really, when you commit to love, you also commit to the next generation. You
Yes.
also commit to the ripple effect of that. No matter what challenges you, no matter how many people try to break you will have moments where you're like, gosh, that person is so mean. But I do not have to absorb who they're trying to invent me to be out of their own pain. I do not have to absorb who this person's pain is. It's not for me to carry, it's theirs. So when we commit to loving presence and kindness, it comes from a space of unconditional love.
Mm,
So when
mm,
we say unconditional, that means even when someone challenges you, unconditionally love them anyways.
yeah.
And it's, I've had people be tremendously spicy towards me, and that is where I hold boundaries and I do not chase after them with people pleasing. I can simply allow myself to not explain myself and continue to be who I am authentically me. That's the part that people have to accept. It's okay that I'm too emotional for others. It's okay that I'm too nice because I want to be the nice one. I want to be the loving one. I want to be the one that holds space unconditionally, unapologetically, every single time.
I love how everything is coming back to the choice because this is the choice you have made for you, despite
Absolutely.
whatever others say. And I love what you share because you almost still my last question, because we're talking about choice, and sometimes life is giving you choices, like the one
Yes.
you had recently, and we talk about where you almost, I say almost because life is good and life played
Yes.
with you, and you
Yes.
almost had to say no to an important event that was really important to you
Yes.
at the other side of the country, but life
Yes.
turned in another direction. And
Yes.
I love how, as a mother, when finally you look at everything you built, your career, your
Yeah.
resilience, the
Yes.
value, And you shared a bit that what you want to let and your daughter to be to remember. But what is the most important legacy you
Yeah.
hope you are creating for her?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's a really great question. And I think when we look at legacy, it's not about who you are, it's about the impact that's left behind when you're not here. And so I hope that my legacy is of love, that the stories that will be told about me are about the love that I shared. And for my daughter's sake, for her to be bold enough to commit to who she is, regardless of what the world will try to shape for her. I hope that she chooses for herself to always commit to her authenticity and that love is a ripple effect. That is what I hope my legacy should be, is that when I'm gone, that people will read a story or hear a podcast, but that my daughter knows most of all who I am authentically me. And when she hears my voice after I'm gone, she's like, that's my mom.
Mm,
That she'll never question. She'll never question herself because she felt empowered her entire life. That's all I could want as a legacy. Truly, it's
yeah.
you leave all the material things behind. It's the way you make people feel that is truly the legacy you leave.
Mm.
It's the
And
way you make people feel. That's all I could ever want, is to make people feel empowered and loved unconditionally.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love how the way I see it, it's you're a bit like the game changer of your family. And
Mhm.
the way you act and as you and everything you shared, bringing her to the studio, bringing
Yeah.
her through this 12-hour trip with you is
Yes.
not also not also creating legacy, but souvenirs, how she will remember those moments you built together. And
Yeah.
do you think that by not being conventional, because both of us are not really conventional,
Oh, it gets challenged often.
of course, but do you think that in a way we are giving also possibility to our kids to see what else is possible? And it reminds me also
Absolutely.
what Dean shared yesterday during our call and the
Yeah.
story with her daughter, where sometimes it's like you have a path, which is the standard path that everyone
Yeah.
is doing. Like
Society.
you need to go to college, you need to become someone,
Yeah.
sometimes by forgetting who you are. And
Yeah.
by doing what we are doing, we're allowing our kids to say, no, I'm going to stand up for who I am and what enlightened because I saw my mom being so happy every day in her life. I saw
Right.
her traveling, impacting lives that I'm not meant for a 9 to 5 job. I'm meant for
Yeah.
something different. And
Absolutely.
do you think that it's also for her? Because this is what that, that's my legacy to try, to transmit to my kids to say, you can live your dreams as long
Yes.
as you believe in it and I
Yes.
believe in you, so just go for it, even if it's
Yeah.
not conventional, even if it's different. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's enlight you and if you're happy every day when you wake up and you don't end your life having, yes, maybe a good pay slip, but by paying your health at the end of your life, then for me it will be a win. So do you think that through everything you're doing, you bring also that game changer inside to your daughter?
Oh gosh, absolutely. And I think I do challenge societal norms. And the judgment is real. The judgment happens. People judge. How could you take her out of school to take her to Florida? Like, how could you take her out of school? Like, and it's those moments where it's interesting to watch how her mind works
Yeah,
in the lived in experience. It is her ability to communicate, her ability to process, her ability to navigate. I mean, walking through the airports and watching my daughter confidently searching for where we needed to go next and just feeling so empowered to, buy herself a snack with my card. It's like those mom moments where we step back and we're watching them become a person That's not just
I'm not a baby anymore.
it's not a little baby anymore. It's like they process so differently when we expose them to higher thinking and lived in experience. It has been a privilege to work for Dean because Dean is very much a family man. His kids come in studio, his wife comes in studio, his family is with him. And I knew I was working with the right person when I saw that modeled behavior. And I thought to myself, I want the lifestyle where my daughter comes with me, where she doesn't have to wait.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to wait on the outside of my door. She gets to be a part of this journey. And there's this moment where we stop apologizing for being a mother and honor that motherhood is a part of the journey, that we are not sorry for being career like minded women, that we are not sorry for having businesses and being mothers, because in fact, we are leading by example for our children that we can do all of the things, that we can have business and stable home lives, that we will not compromise our children in order to be successful. I will not compromise my daughter in order to be successful. She gets to come with me, and she should come with me. She doesn't have to stay at home and wait for me. She gets to be a part of it with me. And then by example, she sees her mother doing big, bold things. So she will feel compelled to do big, bold things. And she has seen the behind the scenes where I'm crying and having a hard time. And she says to me, Mommy, you can do all the things. I mean, it's wild to have like a small child tell you, see you. Like, I'll never forget the moment my daughter like grabbed my face. She literally grabbed my face. She goes, Mom, I am so proud that you are my mom.
Oh,
And she's like, and I'm literally sitting there, like tears streaming down my eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, all those moments that you think are not good enough, those babies see you and they are so proud. And they are looking up to you every day as they grow. So, what example are you going to lead? When we talk about living the big, bold life, what is that example for them
yeah.
so that they don't make themselves small? So that they don't get opportunities or see windows and doors open and say, should I do that? Can I do that? When they watch their mother not only walk through the doors, but build the doors for people to walk through. That's the part that we do.
Yeah.
And we do so lovingly and nurturing, but we also really challenge the norm. And we step into bold action when we say, it's okay for me to do things differently. And I will lead by example in doing things differently.
Yeah.
And while others may judge that on the outside, it's only because they wish they could do the same and they can. They
Yeah.
simply need to choose it.
Exactly.
That's all. Yeah.
That's I love it because we see it, also within the edge. And I will not name the person coming every time, with his daughter. And I find it so cute. And that's one of my wish, one of my dream. But living in France, traveling to the US, it's not exactly the same trip.
Yeah, I
But
know. It's a lot to travel with our children. And I
yeah,
had my daughter with me at this last event, and there's this duality of feeling like my attention's fully into this event and my daughter's here and I don't want her to feel left out. And it was this duality. But my daughter the whole time was like, I'm fine. I don't need you. Like she was fine hanging out. She was fine. She was watching. She was like, how can I help? Like it was these things where she understood the bounds of professionalism. And I want everyone to hear that you are not less professional because you are a parent.
no,
That
no,
is a big one that a lot of people fear as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as career driven. You are not less professional for being a parent or having your children present.
yeah. And that's so true. And I remember I did one of the events. I think it was HT. I was pregnant. And after,
Yeah.
I was doing the call and I had my son. And for me, I had so many people telling me, Flavie, I find it so courageous that despite your pregnancy, despite you have a newborn, you are committed, you are present, you are doing the work, even when we finish at 2, 3, 4 a.m. the morning
Yeah.
for you. And
Yeah.
for me, it was really, to say, yes, but that's what I want to show to my kids. I
100%.
want to show them
100%.
what is possible. I want to show them that there is no limit in the world. You can work with anyone.
Right.
They hear me speak more English than French at home. My
Yeah.
son, the first word he said was, yeah. He never said oui. He started saying yes in French only 2 months ago. And he has
Yeah.
said like, yeah, for 6 months. So
Yeah.
it's really how you can show them what is possible, but not
Yeah.
just with them, but also, as you said, in a sense, we're here also to disrupt the norm and
Yes.
say the world is evolving. Some of the
Yes.
rules are so, I'm sorry, 90s or 19th centuries, we are evolving. Today we are talking with robots, we
Yeah.
have bots
Yeah.
everywhere. So our kids are part of the journey. Like you, I cannot imagine the journey. It's like, okay, I'm a mom at that
Yeah.
time, then I'm the entrepreneur. No,
Right.
I
Yeah.
love
Well,
baking
yeah.
between two meetings. And I,
It's so true. I just baked yesterday in between meetings. It's funny that you said that because you can the life of an entrepreneur. It's so true. But that's the part is that we adapt and we overcome. And then we don't build a life around our business. We build a business around our life. And that's
exactly.
the part that I think a lot of people need to tune into is that you don't need to abandon yourself because the world tells you that you need to go clock in,
Yes.
because you can compress more value into short time periods and have time for your family. So when we look at being entrepreneurs and being able to compress incredible value into a half-hour session that someone paid us for, we make more in that half hour
Yeah.
than we would going clocking in somewhere and getting paid hourly and then having to try to figure out, oh my gosh, can I pick my kids up from school? Can I get dinner ready? Can I do all these things? Because there's this unfair expectation of women that we have to be that career mom that goes and clocks in and then clocks in at home. Whereas we've built lifestyles as entrepreneurs where our life is built around us being able to do what we love, but that we will not compromise our life for our business. We started to build business around our lifestyle so that our lifestyle does not get compromised anymore. There were so many times when I was working, I had just had my daughter and I went back to work early because the leadership team was like, "We need you. We need you." Here I compromised an extra month with my newborn to go back to work, to clock in and have to go, pump and brakes, and I stopped producing. Like I was unable to nurse my daughter because of me going back to work too soon. I mean, and these are things that I did in the past. I would never
Correct.
allow myself to do that again because I was indoctrinated differently,
Yes.
and now that we are wanting to be voices for every person listening here today, that you are able to build success. You have done it for other people. You have done it in other areas of your life. Why not for you? Why not for you and your family? Why not? It is possible to have that. It is. And it's the tenacity and the capacity that you have to make that possible. And it's been absolutely beautiful, Flavie, to watch you do that from beginning to where you are today. And all the conversations we've had from in between, because when you commit to being a entrepreneur, and a career entrepreneur, and you commit to that lifestyle, it does not come without doubt.
No.
It does not come without difficult seasons, but it does come with all of your ability to evolve. And I love that that's been kind of a through line of our conversation today is evolution. And if you want this lifestyle, everyone listening, if you want this lifestyle, allow yourself to step in and evolve because in all the different stories you're going to hear in Flavi's podcast, the same voice will come through. All of these women committed to who they were becoming, and they made decisions along the way, not compromise decisions. We made decisions that were bold. We made decisions that were scary. We made commitments and we showed up and we did things that were out of the norm, but we evolved because there's so much power in the compound effect
Mm.
that it
Yes.
doesn't change overnight.
No.
And the first year will always be the hardest because you have to learn new ways of living in that first year, but it will calibrate and you will never have to compromise.
Yes.
You will have moments where you compromise. I'll be honest. Okay, let's put it in the vocabulary. You will have moments where you make decisions that feel like compromise, but it is all for the commitment. Temporary
Yeah.
commitment becomes long-term gain. So if you have a temporary compromise because you've got big bold dreams and you have to make temporary painful decisions for the long-term result,
Yeah.
that's the part that happens. And then you evolve and you look back 2 years later, 3 years later, and you're like, gosh, I'm so glad that I committed to the compound and I didn't give up, even in my hard seasons. It's beautiful what can happen in a 2 year span or a 3 year span. So much can
Yeah.
change, right? And
Yeah.
it's like don't underestimate the power of evolution.
No, and I love it to share it. And that's why I called my movement revolution for the R in bracket to say it's the era of evolution because
So
your
good.
life is all about evolution. And I would love, to close that podcast by saying that dare to big dream, dare
Yes.
to dream big, dare to
Yes.
dream big, because
Yes.
you never know what can happen. And you are that proof that sometimes something that can happen when you were 13 years old, you never
Yes.
imagined what would happen 20 years later, thanks to this compound effect. And
Yes.
there is no shame to have big dreams. There is no shame to be
Amen.
willing to be successful. There is no
Yes.
shame to say, I want to be wealthy. There is no shame to say, I want to defy the norm and I want to change it because I'm
Yes.
creating my legacy
Yes.
and I want to be that model, that
Yes.
reference for my kids. And I want to bring them something different that
Yes.
maybe I didn't had because my parents didn't know. But today we
Yes.
have so many possibilities, so many opportunities that it would be a shame to let it aside. So
Yeah, reach out and grab those pieces and nurture them and become who you are meant to be and who you've always known you were going to be. Accept it and accept the abundance that comes with it. And live the life of your dreams because your dream matters.
yes,
And don't let comparison rob you when you see other people's dreams and think, "Oh, that's their dream." Live yours and love yours. And live the life that's boldly yours, authentically yours, and unapologetically yours.
yes, I love it. So the message is clear, ladies and gentlemen, if you're
Yes,
also listening to us, because men can also dream and have big dreams. It's time
yes,
to go and chase your dream. It's time.
absolutely.
So stop
Absolutely.
waiting for the right moment. Stop
Yes,
waiting for the right decision. Stop waiting for validation. It's
yes,
it's just a matter of decision and choice. So the choice is yours.
absolutely.
Will you grab it?
Absolutely.
That's another question. Thank you so much, Brandy, for everything, for your time, for all those golden nuggets that you have shared with us, for your wisdom, your deepest
Thank you.
wisdom. Thank you so much for who you are. And also, personally, thank you for everything you brought to me and to my life. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And it's an honor and a privilege. So I appreciate you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. And I hope that your audience finds value and truly steps into that next version of themselves. So big hugs to everyone listening. Big hugs to you, Flavi. Thank you
yes,
so much for having
thank you
me.
so much. Wow, 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 wow. I don't know if you like me, but I'm still buzzing by. It's not even an interview, but that heart-centered exchange we just have. And if you made it to the end of this conversation, I know your heart is wide open, like mine. Because Brandy didn't just share her story, she shared the real story of pain, pivots, healing, evolution, and rising again and again when it would have been easier to give up. And I want you to hear this loud and clear. The life you are dreaming of is not unrealistic. It's not too big, too bold, or too much. It's just on the other side of a decision. A decision to believe that you are worthy of becoming who you truly are, that your story matters, that your voice matters, that you don't have to choose between purpose and motherhood, impact and integrity, abundance and authenticity. You get to have it all in your own way, on your own timeline. And Brandy is living proof that impossible becomes I am possible when you choose to evolve again and again. And if this conversation moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And you can also leave a review if this spoke to your heart. And if you want to be part of my next Align experience, where we go even deeper into identity, purpose, and align power, the link to register is in the note. And until next time, just remember who you are. Your next level is not someday, it's already waiting. It just needs you to say yes.